we are at a moment where sustainability is coming in, and then on top of it, redefining what that really means rather than what is available. It's kind of a reset in a lot of ways to think about, let's focus on the end user. What is critical for them? Let them keep them on the bike longer amount of time. So far, I haven't found a reason to compromise on because it is sustainable, right? So I think that's where I think it's key to be in the front line, really pushing these type of changes. Otherwise, it's a Band-Aid approach. We fix a hole. There's only so much Band-Aid you can put in there eventually, right?
The big innovation here is that being sustainable is not a compromise, right? You don't have to accept lower performance to be sustainable. I mean, here you're actually making a objective increase in performance and you're sustainable. We had to try to engineer the fabric to work best with that level of air permeability. We had to work really hard to not go too high because when you're coming down a descent, it's a really fine line where you get optimum breathability, but not go over to where you're feeling the cold air coming in.
Hello, buongiorno, and welcome to the Castelli podcast, a show where we explore the latest breakthroughs in cycling performance, innovation, and everything that helps you ride further, faster, and more comfortably. Today's episode will take a different twist, as we are thrilled to bring you an exclusive conversation about a true game changer in technical fabrics. Polartec's new fabric technology, AirCore. AirCore is the world's first advanced air permeable laminate. It's 100% free from PFAS-based chemicals, made from recycled polyester yarns and engineered to keep you dry from the inside out by letting sweat, vapor escape faster than ever. Lightweight, stretchy, windproof, and water repellent. It's a big leap forward not just for performance, but also for sustainability. And to help me unpack how this breakthrough came to life, I'm joined by two key voices behind it. First, Ramesh Kesh, Senior Vice President at Milliken & Company and Business Manager at Polartec. He leads their textile division's R&D and drives the company's big sustainability initiatives. Ramesh actually flew in from South Carolina all the way to Italy just to record this episode, and I've found him truly inspiring. And then we have Steve Smith, Castelli's brand manager, the one who led the search for better, more sustainable, high-performance fabric, and who played a key role in bringing AirCore into our new product line launching on September 9th. Together, we'll explore the science behind AirCore, the challenges of creating a high-performance yet sustainable material, and why Castelli's new winter line could mark a turning point in cycling apparel. From lab testing to real-world rides, we'll talk about what makes this fabric unique, why it matters for athletes pushing the limits in any weather, and why AirCore might just set the benchmark for years to come. But now, without further delay, let's dive in. Here's my conversation with Ramesh and Steve, which I'm sure you will enjoy. Welcome to the Castelli podcast. First of all, guys, welcome on the Castelli podcast.
Thanks.
Let's kick off the interview with a quick fire round of 4 questions for each of you. And you can only answer with one sentence or a word. You ready? Let's start with Steve. Breathability or waterproof for an all-round cycling jacket? Which one would you choose?
Breathability.
Ramesh, what's the biggest myth about waterproof, breathable fabrics?
The 2 words, breathability and waterproof itself, is a myth.
Okay. Steve, how often do you ride in the rain?
Well, I ride in the rain far too often just because I want to go out and test our products. If I wasn't doing this job, it would be pretty rare.
Ramesh, one word to describe AirCore.
Air permeability.
Steve, if you had to describe AirCore in one sentence for a cyclist or athlete listening, what's the biggest thing it lets you do better?
The one word is it's a game changer. It just makes you more comfortable in every condition, especially for when you're riding in the dry conditions, which is most of your riding. It's so much better. But then also, if you do get caught in the rain, it's better there too.
Ramesh, is AirCore environmentally friendly?
Absolutely it is.
Steve, for the last 4 decades, we have lived with Gore-Tex, which has been the benchmark. Do you see AirCore being that next benchmark or even higher?
Absolutely. I mean, Gore-Tex was a good product. It was innovative for its time. I think what we've learned along the way is that Gore-Tex favored waterproof over all else. AirCore favors breathability with a high level of waterproofness, which is actually better for normal people doing normal things.
Ramesh, last question. Most surprising thing you learned developing AirCore?
I always look at fit, form, and function. I think we looked at real function for a cyclist this time, rather than taking something that's used in other industries and trying to slap it onto cyclists.
Man, I can't wait for this interview now to start. This is going to be an exciting one. Again, welcome on the show. For those of our listeners who might not know who you guys are, Steve, he's been on here for a couple of times, so let's start out with you, Ramesh. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Could you give us a snapshot of who you are and what drives your work?
I'm Ramesh Kesh. I'm the Senior Vice President for Milliken. Also have responsibility for Polartec. What drives me is really looking for and solving for the real problem for the consumer rather than trying to compromise, right? Band-aid approach doesn't sit well with me. I want to get to the core of what the root problem is and then fix it. So that's what drives me every day to get up. And now lately, I think sustainability is a big component of everything we do. So sustainability in general with textiles has come with trade-offs. And I think what we have done with this product, end of the day, is that's not the case, right? We have upped the performance level and still made the product more sustainable.
Since how long have you known Steve?
2 years, 3 year and a half. Yeah. 23 June.
So now I'm super curious, Steve. So take me back. We're here today to talk about Polartec AirCore. Take us back to the beginning. What sparked the initial need for new fabric technology? What made you think we need something better than what's out there? And how did that connection or that idea happen then with Polartec and Ramesh?
So with the Castelli Gabba Perfetto products, actually most of our winter gear, we've been with Gore Windstopper Gore-Tex for 20 years almost. And I think we've really pushed that technology, and it's been clear for a while that the waterproof technology using PFAS chemicals needed to come to an end. And so we started actually quite a while ago to try to look for that next thing. And clearly that starts with to see where the major suppliers are going with those products. And it became pretty apparent very early on that everyone was going towards complete waterproofness, but really sacrificing breathability and stretch. It's complicated as we found out. It's easy to make something waterproof. It's semi-easy, waterproof, and sustainable. But when you add real breathability, it becomes more complicated. And so we even tested some products like full waterproofness, but no breathability is like wearing a plastic bag. So we started going the other direction and thinking about what our cyclist is doing. And with modern technology, from home trainers, the fact that we have an up-to-the-minute forecast of weather conditions in our pocket at all times, people just aren't riding in the rain like they used to. And so we started to really shift the goal from waterproof at all costs, which is something we just, because we've been told that for 40 years, we stopped questioning it, right? But then it was like, wait a minute, we don't always need waterproof. We need to be protected. We need to be breathable, which is going to keep us drier, which is going to keep us more comfortable. So we moved that goal to looking towards breathability. But then we started to survey the industry, started to talk to fabric suppliers and really push in this direction. And usually that question was met with a blank stare. Or we even had some people still try to sell us a PTFE membranes. It's like, guys, that's stopping. Well, it's not been outlawed yet. And so, we also wanted to talk to Polartec to see where they're going, because, of course, a leader in protection and sustainability. But just really going more towards this focus to breathability. And when we described this to Ramesh, it was really, he was a first person that you could see that he got it and lit up and is like, Yeah, I think we can do that. It still took a little bit, but it was just, I think from that first meeting when we described it, Ramesh really understood what we were trying to get at. We didn't really have the technologies yet to get there, I think. But that key first bit was the understanding.
So that also triggered you then, Ramesh, because I assume you probably have had this request from other brands before, for more breathability. We know how important that is. But you probably didn't have the technology there at the moment. But that triggered you and found this as a new challenge to actually get something going there with your whole R&D team.
Yeah, I think I remember clearly the day we met in Milan. Steve came in after 1:30 in the afternoon. We sat down and described what he wanted. The way he positioned it was very different from other brands. I'll be very open with that. In a sense, it was more keeping the person on the bike for a longer time. Make the person comfortable rather than removing zippers, stopping and doing a lot of things we do today. So I think the challenge part of framing that way started some creative juices to flow. And after, in fact, I've told Steve, after he left, I started writing down translating what he was asking into what does that mean to the fabric and eventually down to the membrane, right? That's what it comes down to. So I think it's that framing of what the problem was very critical in getting myself to think about how we're going to go there, right? 95% of the time you frame the problem, 5% that you can solve it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember from that day that Ramesh immediately understood the kind of breathability we were looking for, but then immediately went back to the old habits of asking how much waterproofness do we need? What's our goal there for waterproofness? And I remember saying, like, let's get the breathability, and then we'll try and understand what kind of waterproofness we have, because it really wasn't as important in the whole thing, because most cyclists, when it's actually raining, they're pulling out an old style rain cape, like a fully waterproof shell. And so our focus was clearly on breathability. So, but I think Ramesh, you must have asked 3-4 times, like, what's the waterproof? It's like, if we have 1,000 millimeters, that's okay. If we can get more, that's okay. Whatever we can get above that is better, but the focus was on breathability. And so I think that helped us of having a clear view of what we're headed for in breathability. And then we backed into the water protection.
Exactly. So I think the add-on to what Steve just said is, I think the core of the problem, get to that first, and then we started stepping back from there and said, okay, now let's work on whatever waterproofness, or do you need water resistance kind of a question, right? So that kind of helped us to really pivot to the critical issue the cyclist is facing, and then track back to what other properties do we need. Always comes back to that function component I was talking about.
Yeah.
So
there was a back and forth journey between the two of you.
Yeah.
And Steve, were there any moments during this whole process where the project took a surprising turn?
Yeah, we started off with this fairly aggressive goal in terms of air permeability. By air permeability, we mean that a small amount of air can come through the fabric. And the idea being that air that comes in, if we let a very small amount in, it's not going to make you cold. It's not going to give you a wind chill, because there's no speed to that air that's coming in. So in reality, we're talking about basically, if you have a cube 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters, that's the amount of air that's coming in over a minute. So you have no perception whatsoever of that air coming in. So the goal to get to that level of breathability, Ramesh, I remember you thought it was a big challenge, and also to engineer it, to keep it at that level. To get more is quite easy. To get a lot less is quite easy, but we're at a very specific level we're looking for. And so getting to that level, I didn't expect to, but also because I think Ramesh led me to believe it was really difficult. And then the big surprise is that the amount of water protection we were able to give on top of that, because we started out with very low expectations for water protection.
Yeah, I clearly remember, because I think when we left, bottom line was really because we had launched 2 other technologies just before that, and that was so much so focused on waterproofness, right? Yeah. And then talking to Steve and what we need, I knew pretty much that technology is not going to work here, because breathability is kind of a pretty misunderstood word in the industry in a lot of ways. Now we are talking about air permeability, right? That doesn't mean you're not going to get windproofness out of it. So it is tailoring to the exact amount of air, and it is very, very small, but helps with that evaporative cooling that you need to reduce your heat loss. I mean, that's what we're trying to fundamentally achieve.
Ramesh, let's go into some of the technical stuff.
Absolutely.
What makes the AirCore fabric such a breakthrough in fabric innovation and different from traditional windproof and water repellent fabrics?
I think the main component of that is the membrane itself. So obviously, when you take PFAS out of that system, it goes against everything Steve was asking, which was very difficult. That was the surprising part. Once we resolved for that, then that feature of trying to tailor that air perm, because you remember, it's 3 layers of materials. The membrane contributes majority of the functionality. Then the choice of that fabric that you put in along with it also adds to the point of comfort and everything else. Because one of the things Steve asked for was the stretch component, right? We don't want to wear something that is really tight and plasticky. How do you keep the stretch component to it? So that was the second step of the challenge. I think once we reached a point of agreeing how that composite is going to look like and how you're going to convert to the jacket, then came, like I said, stepping back and looking at that, what the features were, and then now let's work on the water resistance part of it, right? So to me, it was an iterative process. 2 years sounds like a very short amount of time, but I think the quick feedback and evaluations was very, very helpful for us to really go and tailor it, because at the end of the day, we are trying to really fine tune how much air perm you need. You don't want too high, you don't want too low. At the same time, giving enough water resistance to the product itself. That way, it covers most of the needs that you need in the market. So I think I would say it's like layer by layer. We peel that onion, and at the end of the day, we reached to what our goal was.
Yeah. And I would add that, that air permeability target, we're not including that in the 2-year development time period, because that was another year before that of doing a lot of research, fabric development, trying to find that golden level. Mm-hmm. Because if it's too low, you get too wet from the outside. If it's too much air permeability, then you have too much cold air coming in. And so, we did everything from going out and trying to ride in every possible condition. We had endless rounds of jackets made to go out and test it, because high humidity, low humidity, high effort, up, down, and everything. And so fortunately, we have Monte Grappa just behind us here. So even in September, when it was still late summer, hot days, we could be up there at dawn in the morning and get quite cold conditions. So fortunately, we live in a place where we can test year round.
Yeah. Ramesh, AirCore is made with recycled materials and non-PFAS layers, membrane, and DWR treatments. What were some of the toughest technical challenges you faced in removing PFAS from the membranes and layers, and how difficult was it to achieve the level of some sustainability without compromising on performance?
Yeah, I think until Steve got this problem, he explained, we thought we kind of conquered PFAS 90% of the needs, because DWR treatments, there are multiple options we have, and Polartec got out of PFAS in December 2022. So then came the challenge of how do you get rid of from the membranes, especially the ones that needs to be breathable. That's where the processing challenge comes in, and what that PFAS really helps in creating those nanofibers and how you lay them became a challenge. So I think the second part B of getting rid of PFAS in this project was a bigger challenge than the fabric part that took us quite some time to get rid of. So I think the very drive of trying to still improve performance, which is what the end consumer cares, by making it more sustainable is something we are pushing as a brand. We're continuing to evolve in that area. And I think Castelli was a great partner for us for really pushing that boundary even further, because we could have gone in a completely different direction. Like Steve was talking about plan B. I had a plan B, honestly. I haven't talked to him yet. But so that's where I think is just, do good at the same time, make that performance component that is so critical. Can we make it better, right? So we feel like we've got a best solution rather than a better solution.
But yeah, I think it almost happened. I feel like we were a bit lucky too, because in like where we've been with older technologies, we just accepted it has to be waterproof. And then we tried to get the best compromise we could And the sustainability forced us to think about the problem from a new standpoint of saying, no, there's like, we really need the breathability, and whatever waterproofness comes it's almost like we were ready to compromise the waterproofness. But what we found out is actually it's by doing the breathability, we can still maintain a surprisingly high level of waterproofness. And so it really does turn into the product that you can use every single day. If you do get caught in the rain, I've done 2-hour rides where it's raining solid the entire time and stayed completely dry on the inside. If you're going to have to go out and ride 5 hours in the rain, you might still reach for an actual rain shell. I think, the AirCore doesn't have an unlimited forever, nothing ever going to get a little bit wet on the inside. But for real life, what almost every cyclist is doing all the time, this is where they should be.
Sounds like it is the dream jacket, dream fabric, everything, lightweight, breathable. So when we talk about breathability, can we put some numbers on the air permeability, for everyday cyclists, and how important that actually is, with MVTR?
That's where the misleading part of the whole last 30 plus years has been, right? When you call breathable, typically 2 test methods are there, and every brand, every ingredient brand, every garment brand would report a number, right? It's usually 20,000 plus. In that point, AirCore is 30 plus thousand. So there's no trade-off in that whatsoever. Now, the part where that breathability to me as a technical person is it moisture vapor breathable or is it air permeable? Entirely 2 ends of the spectrum. So when you say air permeable, you literally have air as your carrier of your moisture outside your body, right?
Yeah.
It's flowing. Then people's mind always goes through wind resistance and all that kind of stuff, but that's where you optimize it and engineering it to exactly what we need, and boxing it is so important. Then in that case, what you're looking at is, let's talk about what is important for the rider rather than the way we measure things in the past. So, the way Steve positioned it for this whole project, it does, a simple analogy comes to my mind is, an artist knows what the final picture looks like. We were building pixel by pixel, honestly. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you build that pixel, you got to think about, not what people did 20 years ago. Yeah. Technology advances faster than we could keep up with. What do we do the best we can to address really? I think that's where air permeability came into play. And we said, we got to hit the optimal level we need. And that data, obviously, with all the testing that Steve and Castelli has done, that's where it came to the definition point. That's why I remember him I kept going back, okay, I can hit this. What about water resistance, right? I think that's the pivotal point, I think, is redefining what the jacket really does. So air permeability is the key component for us to really achieve this point of performance.
Yeah. I mean, to me, MVTR, there's those moisture vapor transport rate, is a major. It's a laboratory test that shows how much moisture the membrane can absorb and then evaporate over a 24-hour period. And it's actually somewhat valid for low activity or low intensity activities, low sweat activities. So if you're looking for a waterproof jacket to go hiking really walking, where you're not really sweating that much. Your body's still releasing a little bit of sweat, and it's okay for that. When we get into higher intensity activities, running, cycling, ski mountaineering, anything where you're actually sweating, let's say your heart rate's going above 140, 150 beats per minute, you need more than that. And so MVTR, though, unfortunately in the industry, it's become an easy test and easy numbers to hit. Yeah. Really there's probably thousands of suppliers out there that are making fabrics that hit good MVTR numbers. But Ramesh just used an analogy. I'll use another one in the case of what we're doing. To me, MVTR is like Dieselgate, right? It's when Volkswagen and Audi made cars that were really good at hitting that test, but they were cheating, right? And an MVTR number without air permeability for a high intensity aerobic sport it's like Dieselgate. I mean, you got some great numbers in the test, but you're not getting real protection. MVTR without air permeability means that you're wet inside. It only works when you're wet. And so what we're trying to do is keep you dry from the inside. And so MVTR, I don't know if I see an MVTR number, I kind of skip over it or laugh a little bit because it's not what we need.
No, exactly. Maybe you also want to explain a little bit about the water column, that a lot of people get fixed on that, and what actually really means to a cyclist, which is a lot less.
Yeah, so I mean, water column, this is a measure of waterproofness, right? And when they say water column, there isn't actually, in the labs, there's not actually a column of water, right? There's a machine that will increase, basically it holds fixed a piece of fabric and will builds a seal around that fabric and then puts pressurized water against that membrane or the fabric to see how much pressure it can hold. And so, and then it's expressed in terms of water column. So the standard accepted measure from the outdoor industry for calling something waterproof is 10,000 millimeters of water column. I don't know why they say 10,000 millimeters. It's easier to say 10 meters.
10 mils.
So, but if you imagine a water column 10 meters high, and I mean, just think when you, like, as a kid, you dive down to the bottom of a swimming pool that's at 2 meters and the pressure in your ears, right? And so 10 meters of water is a lot of pressure. But in reality, the outdoor industry considers 10 meters of water pressure as the standard that it needs to be able to call itself waterproof. But rain actually falls at a pressure equivalent of about 800 millimeters, so 80 centimeters. So not even 1 meter. I mean, it's not a super hard pressure, and that's actual rain. I mean, okay, hurricane force winds goes a bit higher, but what we encounter is actually below 1 meter of water column. So when Ramesh really pressed me, it's like, what water column do we need? I answered, in my experience, even a 2,000 millimeter, 2 meter, it keeps you functionally dry. And on here, we're up above 5,000. So, we're actually 6 times the pressure of rain. So we're at a level that we didn't, at least I wasn't even hoping to get to that level. I was hoping to get to 2.
Wow. So I can imagine if I was one of Castelli's, many Castelli fans out there, an amateur cyclist, and also maybe some of our sponsored athletes like Sudal Quickstep, I will be asking myself, when do I get products for weather, winter training products, winter jackets with AirCore technology? I'll be asking myself that question right now.
Sure. The Sudal guys will be getting it in this fall. And so we're going to move up the delivery of their 2026 kit. And then, through all our other sponsored athletes, but it's available in September to everybody else. So, but only in Castelli and our sister brand Sportful.
But also talk about products then, Steve. In the Castelli collection, we have 4 jackets and then 1 tight.
Mm-hmm. Plus a glove and a shoe cover.
And the shoe cover.
Oh, yeah.
So if you go look at the top of the line when it comes to jackets,
the key product that everyone should be looking at is the Perfetto ROS 3. So ROS stands for rain or shine. This is a product that's good for sunny conditions, dry conditions, all the way to rain. And this is a fairly lightweight jacket, but with the level of protection and breathability, I mean, really down to around freezing, you can put a long sleeve base layer. If you really take it down below freezing, you might add a second layer. And we've got some good options for that too with a Polartec Alpha. So, this is a product that if you put a couple layers underneath it, you can take it to well below freezing. So this could be your only jacket. Almost more for convenience sake, we have the Alpha 150 jacket, which is our cold weather jacket. It's got the Alpha insulation built into it. So this is really the jacket from around 40 degrees Fahrenheit, 5 degrees Celsius on down. And it's really made to be the ultimate winter jacket. Soren, how many pro athletes do we have telling us this is their favorite Castelli product? A lot.
Yeah.
So with now upgrading to the AirCore, we get more stretch, more breathability, more water protection. This really is the ultimate winter jacket. So it's a little bit of a double up of the perfetto, because with perfetto and layers, you can get to the same result. It's just more complicated. If you just want to have that amazing jacket you pull off the shelf, it doesn't even feel like you're wearing a heavy jacket. That's the one. Then we also have the Competizione jacket, which has a heavier weight fleece liner. So if you want a kind of a dependable workhorse of a jacket that's really going to take you through all winter long in colder climates. So it's an insulated jacket, but with the same membrane technology. And then really the entry level to the AirCore technology is a product we call the Entrata jacket. So we've just brought the AirCore fabric to the front, to the sleeves, to the shoulders of the fabric, or to the jacket, with a breathable back, so a thermal back. So yeah, starting in from an entry level all the way up to the top of the line Alpha 150 jacket.
And then we got the tight, and then we have also the accessories.
The very cold weather tight. So if you're out there riding your bike below freezing, the big benefit of this tight now is that you have Polartec microgrid heavier weight fleece on the inside, so it's keeping that membrane a little bit off your skin. And then we're taking advantage of the high stretch of AirCore, because the membrane itself can elongate to 3 times its beginning state. So the limit we have on the stretch is coming from the textile component, not from the membrane. But as Ramesh said, we're still early days with this technology. But already we're at, I believe the fabric on the tight can stretch almost to double its original length. So we got a great stretch to movement with the tight. You've got the breathability, you've got the windproofness. So for those guys, we've got a few of our ambassadors that are out there in Norway and in Ottawa. So these guys every weekend going out and doing 150 kilometers at minus 20 degrees. It's like crazy. This is for you. So initial launch is just with the Castelli collection, but coming a little bit later in fall of 25, we're bringing this into custom. So we can fully print it. You lose a tiny bit of air permeability, a tiny bit of water protection, but it's still by far the best product on the market.
And then it's 100% eco-friendly. Fantastic. Yes. Ramesh, do you see then AirCore setting a new standard for the industry, and how far, what you're aware of, are some of the other brands behind Polartec at the moment, or slowly catching up?
I think we are at a moment where sustainability is coming in, right? And then on top of it, redefining what that really means rather than what is available. Like Steve said, it's kind of a reset in a lot of ways to think about, let's focus on the end user. What is critical for them? Let them keep them on the bike longer amount of time. And then I think that same kind of a thought process goes into everything we are working on at Polartec. And, so far I haven't found a reason to compromise on because it is sustainable, right? I think that push will continue to see more and more us talk about that. So I think that's where I think it's key to be in the front line, really pushing these type of changes. Otherwise, it's a Band-Aid approach. We fix a hole. There's only so much Band-Aid you can put in there eventually, right? So I think the key learning for us in this project was really going back to the core of defining what we want to solve for. And it happens to be the one that the guy on the bike has been facing for so long, right? So let's address the core of that problem. And I think it opens up, like Steve said, cycling is one of the areas. I mean, every high aerobic activity has the same fundamental problem, right? How do we take this technology and further elevate it to performance levels where it's always been a compromise?
And I can imagine already, Steve, your head is already spinning with a lot of ideas for the future or innovations that you might see coming. I don't know if there's anything here that you can already unveil today.
Yeah, well, winter 26 is already well on the path. So there's some really cool new things coming there. And then honestly, I think where we are for winter 26 is just taking what we've done so far and applying it better. And then, there's new frontiers to hit going forward beyond that. But I think we've hit a pretty special plateau already.
Yeah.
From which to build a next round.
Absolutely.
It's a big Castelli Polartec partnership, and that will see a lot more products and product ideas and concepts evolving over the coming years. So I think it's also a great way here to wrap up this episode here. But before we wrap it up, Steve, if you could sum up Polartec AirCore in one sentence to riders and athletes, what would it be?
It's a game changer that makes fall and winter riding just completely accessible. The beauty of it is you won't even feel you have it on.
Nice. I think it's a really good way to wrap up this episode. Thank you so much, guys, for taking the time. And Ramesh, thank you so much for coming all the way from the US here to Italy, for meeting with us and also recording this podcast.
Absolutely. Would not miss it for the world. Thank you.
It was an honor. Thank you, man. And thanks for everything. And we really appreciate this collaboration, commitment in changing the way that cyclists dress and riding in greater comfort in all kinds of conditions. To all the listeners, I will leave links in the podcast notes to both the website then of Polartec with all the videos and technical stuff, but also on the Castelli Cycling World products that Steve, he mentioned early on. And of course, also to go and check out our custom website for more information. So guys, thank you again. It's been an honor to have you on.
Thank you.